Take a seat, sit back, and relax, because you are listening to Real Talk Radio, where the talk gets real. Welcome to Big Brother All-Star Edition. Week 6 recap.
Welcome, everybody, to Real Talk Radio. This is your BB Talk Big Brother recap for week 6. Are we week 6 or week 7? I feel like we're week 6. Time is flying, guys.
We're halfway through.
We're halfway through already. See what I mean? We said like a few podcasts ago that I was so worried that it was going to end, and now we're almost there. We lost another great player. I will stop crying and I will introduce our BB Fanatics. First up, we got CiCi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm grand. Can't complain. Well, we'll discuss why I can actually complain.
All hour.
Yeah, Stephanie.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening. It is a beautiful, beautiful Friday, and we had a tremendous Big Brother week. A little bit more entertaining, but possibly forced entertainment by certain house guests. So we will break it down, guys, as, Sunday happens, HOH competition. We do see that the house guests are in the midst of an HOH competition called the Big Brother Power Trip. Christmas reveals that hours before the eviction ceremony that she and Devon had actually made amends, and they were talking about the blowout. Devon forgives her, but then it is quick to note in the diary room that I just said that. Don't Big Brother fans don't think I forgave her entirely. She's still my target for the week if I get HOH. And I would just like to say how two-faced Christmas is, though. Just because she's no longer in power now and she knows that Devon has a potential chance of actually winning, she wants to kind of make amends with that.
Yeah, super shady. I don't know if you saw, I had Instagram storied that episode or that specific moment. And I was like, okay, Christmas, like now you're coming in trying to get safety. And I knew Devon. Before Devon even went into the diary room, I was like, okay, Devon, tell her what she wants to hear just to get through the week, and then the diary room came up and I was like, yes, exactly. Okay, we're back in the game now.
That's it. There's no way that, you get rid of her best friend and, that whole crazy blowout from last week. She's not just going to forgive you like that. Come on, get real. Christmas, however, doesn't have to worry as Devon is the first to fall.
Do you think Christmas really got away with that though? Do you think she really thinks Devon is just all cool now? I don't think so.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. We don't know. I think she has no choice but to think so, and make it seem, or at least make it seem like in the house that everything's all fine and dandy. Because what else are you going to do, right?
I think that she had no choice to pretend, even if she didn't feel like it, it was still the smart thing on her part to do, because on the off chance it did work, it would be beneficial for her. So I think she felt like she had no choice, but still, she's showing the world her real colors and people aren't liking it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's it. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, what else are you going to do though, right? If you were in that situation and you made those remarks, and you got your best friend out and, oh crap, it's HOH, you would kind of do the same thing. You know what I mean? You would have no choice. Hey, you would think in your head, okay, let me make amends now before she ends up winning HOH and I really get screwed. Let me have this conversation, so what else are you going to do in her situation? I mean, none of us would have done what she would have done to begin with. But if we were in that place, we would have ultimately have done the same. But yeah, no, Christmas doesn't have to worry. Devon did not win the HOH. So no one will be coming after her. After 48 minutes, David also can't keep his grip on the billboard and falls off as well. Disappointed in another HOH loss. It's a hard thing, right? So for those that don't know, it's basically a Bristol
wall.
board.
It's the classic wall challenge from Big Brother.
Yeah, so it tilts forward and puts your body weight in like all sorts of awkward positions. Really, really tough on the upper body.
For sure. And I like the fact how during this entire competition, Dani is saying she doesn't want to win it. She just wants to stay on until Tyler gets off, and she really doesn't want to win. And the fact that they're showing us this already got me into my head of, so then Dani's going to win. Because the editing seems so weird to me. With how that was always happening, because they always kept on going back to Dani. I don't want to win it. I don't want to win it. I'm holding on for dear life. It's really cold. Then we see other people. And then we get Ian was technically the third to fall off after 53 minutes, which means David, and Devon. So there was a thing where if you're the first three to fall off, you'd become a have-not. After those three fell, Memphis fell because now he's not a have-not, and he didn't want to win the HOH. He just didn't want to be a have-not. So
can we define him as a floater at this point? Because it was just in ultimate floater fashion. He was just like, oh, not a have-not. Oh, don't need to win. I'm gonna just fall off. I was like, oh, I hate you.
But he's not a floater. But he's not a floater though, guys.
Oh, come on.
What has he done since week 2?
He created the committee.
It doesn't, but
but he's not a floater.
We said this when he created the committee. If this is all he does, it's not going to be enough. Is it smart for the first half of the game? Yes. But we're into jury now. We're into second half. This is ensuring that he's not going to win. This type of play.
Right. So yes, but I don't classify him as a floater. I classify David, for instance, as a floater. I would classify.
But David's not getting far unless he starts winning stuff right now. So it's floaters are people who are in a very good position in the house and have done nothing to show for it, and that's Memphis. David.
Yeah, they haven't had to work.
Position.
There's no work. David has to if he wants to stay, he has to fight.
He fights every week. Yeah,
fights
Memphis
every week,
doing nothing. That's a floater.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
But not having an alliance is not the same as floating.
I guess you're right, because I'm thinking back to the season 4 when June ended up winning. I know I always hate the fact that she won, but she was in an alliance, right? But she technically floated throughout the game. So I guess in retrospect, Memphis is a floater. But in that regard, But the thing is, he's liked by everyone. So is it really floating? Do you want to? Okay, I guess.
Yeah, that's literally the definition of floating.
Yeah. Okay. So would you count Ian as a floater?
No, because Ian wasn't in a great position in the house. He didn't have any allies.
Yeah, he was playing alone. He wasn't a floater. And I think that's a really important distinction, that when you're playing without an alliance, you have to be doing work to make it week over week over week. And Ian, I think he was slow playing, but that is what it is. That's the strategy he's committed to. He's going to slow play till halfway through and then pick up his game. So yeah, I think there's a little bit more of there's more work involved there. When you get yourself into a nice cushy position, people aren't really targeting you. They're not looking at you. You get along with everybody enough to not ruffle any feathers, and you just rely on your numbers to kind of get you through. That's floating. Right. And he hasn't really made any moves within the committee. He's not driving the strategy of the committee. That rests with the other three, Dani and Cody, I would say even more, and maybe Tyler. Even more than Nicole driving the strategy of that alliance.
I don't know, man, because at the end of the day, if by that description, I would say this entire house are kind of floaters. Then, aside from Ian and Janelle and Kaser, by that, because technically, he Cody isn't necessarily, they're all not doing much. It's all safe, like we mentioned, right? So by everyone kind of playing it safe isn't then under your description of floater, that would technically mean that the committee is technically a floating group, essentially.
Well, not really, because someone from that alliance has won HOH every week except for when Enzo, but Enzo's kind of
in there,
an extension to that. So
right.
They've literally no one else outside of that 7 group of people has won.
Right. Okay, fair. So with that, speaking of Enzo, he falls after an hour. So kudos to Enzo. Meow Meow got far, but unfortunately could not win. Kevin also falls shortly after that. Tyler then finally falls. I feel like there was something with Tyler there, aside from Dani just wanting to wait.
Well, Dani was waiting for Tyler, and then it was all about, well, I don't want to drop just because Tyler dropped. So she hung on.
And then Nicole just decides that she doesn't want to have to make nominations this week. And then she falls and just trusts both Dani and Cody to begin with. So she bounces. So obviously the remaining on the wall is Cody. But then Cody sees her fall and he's like, yeah, I'm good too. So let me just fall as well. And then, hey, look at that. Dani accidentally wins HOH.
This is like everybody's strategy, though. Like, let me just wait until no one in our alliance is in the contention to win and then just fall. And hopefully someone else will have to get the blood on their hands. But, like, everybody did that.
Yeah, so lame. So lame. But Dani wins.
Dani wins.
Yeah, so then they end up, so Dani and Tyler essentially end up having a nice little conversation about, oh, I'm going to keep you safe. We're going to work together. And Tyler was all on board with that. He's like, okay, cool. Until like maybe final 6. And then Tyler was like, hey, I'll stay until final 4 with you kind of thing. You can do what you want on 6. I'll keep you safe until 4. So that nice little talk was there. So we think everything is good. And Dani also tells Devon she has nothing to worry about, and they bonded. So that's cool. Devon is all happy there. David also worries that he might be in danger, as he and Dani had very little game relationship. To be fair, David, you kind of have very little game relationship with everybody. So
very little game, period.
Very little game, period. That's it. And Kevin obviously is worried again. He thinks he's going to be up. So, Kevin has a right to worry because Kevin should be worried he's going to be up every week because he's a floater. Then, yeah, essentially, I know, Chili. I'm mad about it too. Cody suggests nominating David and Kevin as the 2 house guests. They don't have any alliance with Cody. Sorry, let me repeat that. Cody suggests nominating David and Kevin, as these 2 house guests don't necessarily have an alliance with Cody. And and Dani mentions maybe possibly backdooring Tyler, because obviously that's still in her bag. She still wants to kind of do that. So we know about the conversation with I think the conversation with Tyler technically happens a little later, but I just wanted you to get that feeling of where Dani's head was at. So Kevin gets so I think she ends up telling Kevin, right, that, hey, listen, I'm going to put you up, but I want you to know that you're just kind of a pawn sort of deal, and I really want you to stay. It's just, I want you to go up kind of thing to be one of my nominations. Tyler was trying to convince her, hey, listen, but why don't you put up one of your alliance people? So like this, you don't necessarily, so that everyone's safe kind of deal. And we will find out if that ends up working. As Tyler and Dani, so I mentioned that's where the verbal agreement happens. They say to each other is safe. We then do find out, though, that she does keep her word right now, as Dani nominates Kevin and David. Kevin is crying again. Still worried that not liking the pawn, and he was upset that his whole strategy didn't work of trying to convince her otherwise. David, of course, though, is excited. He is not showing it because he has the disruptor power, which means he can essentially take someone from the nomination block off, which, of course, he is going to take himself off. We don't see anything yet. It keeps us in the loop. We're like, no, how come he didn't use it yet? But, of course, we will find out what happens on Tuesday, as this week they showed up on Tuesday for the Power of Veto ceremony. Any comments so far, guys?
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, good recap. Keep going.
Thank you. I have my moments. After the nomination ceremony, that's where we start off here. Tyler doesn't feel safe from a possible backdoor, even though they had that conversation. So we know right off the bat that Tyler's not stupid. He sees that Dani is still kind of maybe gunning for him and doesn't trust her. As you know, you shouldn't. You're in the Big Brother house. Don't trust anybody. David, of course, we see that he's grateful to have the disruptor power. We see that he's trying to practice his crying.
Oh my God. So this whole series of shenanigans just made me cringe.
I mean, I respect the hustle of wanting to make it look convincing, but he just did too much was the issue.
Well, I think Cody, so we may as well fill the people in. Like, David is going around the house trying to root out who used this power.
Okay, so we see David practicing his crying. Davon comes in, and I'm like, okay, David, you don't have to put in your tears here. Like, everyone, you know what I mean? Like, okay, no one's going to know you have the disruptor power, but you don't got to cry. You know what I mean? So whatever. He's still trying to play that bag of, being sorry. His tears looked good. I think his tears looked decent enough. But yeah, with that, Dani, Christmas, and Cody discuss the powers and why they haven't surfaced yet. That's a valid conversation. Of course, Cody doesn't know for certain that Dani and Christmas both have the powers. Yeah. So I loved how convincing those two were when they were talking about it.
Yeah, Cody's sitting there just like, I wonder when these powers are going to show up. And like, there's no sideways glances. There's nothing. It's just,
I
wonder.
Two of them have a power in that conversation and they're just not saying anything,
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So obviously, if none of the house guests who have the power, they don't technically know. Well, one, they don't know what it is, I guess, right? And they don't know how long they have it for either, I would imagine. They're just completely in the dark about it.
Completely in the dark. Yeah, I think so. I think they're completely in the dark. And Cody obviously was convinced that they had something to do with nominations. So it must happen like at the nomination ceremony. So I think that that's what was causing some confusion. Like, I think it's throwing Cody's paranoia in of like, maybe these have nothing to do with nominations and we have no idea what's going to change in the game.
I mean, that's valid. That makes sense. And as they're having this conversation, the house guests are called into the kitchen when the disruptor power is unleashed. So everyone sits down. They see that the disruptor power is being used. David gives an emotional performance, and I put that in quotations, when it's revealed that he has been taken down off the block. So Memphis is like, bro, why are you crying? Like, you should be happy. Like, everyone's happy for you that you got off the block. However, Dani is now all nervous and scared because she now has to put on the spot. She's basically put on the spot to name a replacement nominee. Dani decides to put up Tyler. There goes that plan. As obviously Cody is not thrilled that Dani did do this. And Kevin is dismayed now to know that he is up against a known competitor winner for the veto. And of course, Kevin is still upset. Tyler is obviously very suspicious as to why Dani would try and backdoor him now. It's kind of confirmed, but Dani takes him to upstairs to try and calm down, say, listen, you're just a safe vote to stay, and I'm not trying to backdoor you.
Yeah, so we're getting mixed messages from Dani in the diary room at this point too, right? Where she's saying yes, no, we don't know.
I was literally gonna say I was so confused. Like I'm just very confused at this point.
Yeah, just as right now we don't really know what Dani is thinking, other than it's like she gets an idea, and until she gets another one, that's just like all she can think about.
To be fair, I don't think she knows what she's thinking of doing either. I think she was just kind of flustered. I think she really.
I think the Tyler thing was a very impulsive decision. So it was a little bit off, but I think maybe because they showed. I mean, obviously, editing is shown on purpose so that it's very fluid when we watch it, so we don't know when this conversation actually happened. But Tyler had said, "I wouldn't be mad if you put me up." So I think in her head, she just impulsively made that decision to be like, I don't want to get any more blood on my hands because now I have to nominate a third person. So
and this person said,
yeah, and he said that he wasn't going to be mad at her. So she did it like, well, everyone's going to send home Kevin anyways if Tyler's on the block. But I don't know, it's confusing, very mixed, very mixed.
And that's it. And keep in mind, right? She doesn't seem like the type of person that's really good under pressure. So when Big Brother announces, hey, this power is being used, you have to put someone up, legit, she's just, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Like Steph said, yeah, we had that conversation with Tyler. Let me put him up. It still didn't make sense, though, even if you were under all that pressure. Why didn't you put up, I don't know, anybody else who wasn't in your alliance? There's not many people left, but why didn't you put up Ian? Why didn't you put up whatever, like it's still kind of messed up. If I'm Tyler and I had that conversation with you and you put me up and then you had that conversation with me afterwards, oh, don't worry, you're just a pawn. Okay, but why me? We had a beef against each other. Like, I don't trust you now. And that's essentially what Tyler thought.
Well, I think at this point, like, even though we know as viewers that she really is like with the committee as much as Dani is committed to anybody in the committee, but right. But I think she has ties that maybe we aren't seeing in the edited versions with basically everybody in the house except Kevin and David. So it didn't matter really who she nominated. She was drawing a line in her game at this point, whether she went on one side or the other.
Right. And that's it. And that's the problem with creating big alliances or allying yourself with so many people. Because eventually you're going to have to take shots at them. And then some people are very close with other people. And then if you take shots at them, you might ruin this group of relationships. It's a whole thing. That's one of the
beauty of Big Brother. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. That's well put. Well said. So Devon, let's not go there. If he or Kevin win the veto, she thinks she needs also now to put up a pawn from their alliance, which I guess you already did with Tyler. But Christmas is baffled at Dani's decision-making, which makes complete sense, as we all kind of were. But we know that she really hates Tyler to begin with. And so she kind of just took that. And she was like, yeah, she kind of thought what we all thought. Why didn't she just put up non-committee members, right?
Yeah. So but Christmas is brand loyal to the committee. Christmas has no other relationships outside, so she can't even fathom why that wouldn't be an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, she's one of those loyal people towards her group, which is technically what you should be. But, it's Big Brother.
Well, it's like Dani said in the diary room, like, Christmas is like full-blown committee cheerleader, you know? And she's like, she is more in this alliance than anybody else is in this alliance.
That is true. Yeah. That's So with that note, we have the Power of Veto competition, and it is called the Micro Brews. We have Devon, Ian, Enzo are chosen to play, of course, alongside Dani, Tyler, and Kevin. And boy, was, first of all, the special effects really cheesy, but I guess it was fine.
They're always cheesy. Come on, it's good.
It's very B-movie. I kind of like it. It's cool. And yeah, so we see them all kind of, so the rest of the house guests have to watch them on this screen, but they're pretty much giants holding the clamps to try and take these little micro brews and align them in a row and stack them up. And the winner who can do this basically wins the Power of Veto. So you might think it's easy, but honestly, it looks hard because these clamps are like huge, right? So the giant, You're like a giant and you have huge clamps. And I imagine it's completely frustrating. You have to be really focused. You have to not shake. I would be horrible in this game. And I would definitely be dropping F-bombs like it was nobody's business.
Yeah. And it was interesting, like the strategy off the top here, where it took a while. Dani did it right away, but it took a while for people to bring, like, you have to transfer the cans from where they're sitting onto the table. And people were trying to like navigate that distance with these really long tweezers, which then get caught because they're too long. So you have to actually move the base over. But it took a while, by the looks of it, for everybody to catch on. Oh, if I moved this table over, then I could maneuver a little bit easier. And I was like, this is ridiculous.
Well, no, I was more thinking the reason why it was like that, though, was because, yes, you do have the issue of maybe trying to damage, like to knock off the microbrews. But at the same time, if it's maybe too close, you would still... I don't know how far the distance was, but it did make sense, I guess, because everyone then eventually did it, because it's too much of a long reach too, right? So, yeah. Okay. I don't know what I was saying.
It was a good competition, though. I like these tricky, these tricky ones.
Yeah, it needs a little bit more finesse rather than just like sheer willpower.
And we gotta love the strategy of Enzo's tongue.
Old man meow meow. It's so focused.
So focused, and it makes complete sense. It's just crazy how like out his tongue was. It always like trying to do it, but whatever makes you focus. Whatever makes you focus. I'm sure we all do silly things when we're trying to focus. So it was just funny to see everybody's strategy. With that though, Davon has some near misses, but with a steady hand, she finally stacks the last tiny 15th beer in her pyramid, winning the smallest power of veto in the world.
Woohoo! This is also Day's first Big Brother win, if I'm not mistaken.
Power of veto win. No,
first
Big Brother win ever.
Oh. Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I thought it was first power of veto win.
She never won a comp before.
She has never won a competition, so this was huge for Mama Day.
Hey, I'm gonna put a clap soundtrack in the background because that definitely deserves some clapping. That's awesome. I thought it was just the first power of veto win. Okay, nice.
It was a huge feat for a mini veto.
Yeah, straight up.
Which is kind of poetically beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Exactly. It was poetic justice right there. Mama Day wins it. At least she knows she's safe. Dani hopes, obviously, that Davon will stick to promise to the... Oh, so technically, Davon and Dani had a talk before where she had made a promise that if she wins the veto, she would not... she would keep the nominations the same, because Dani was expressing to her how, look... I don't want to get any more blood in my hands, sort of deal. And Davon was like, yeah, I got you. Don't worry. I'll keep the nominations the same. And it seemed like at that time, Davon was down to do that. But we come to find out that Dani is struggling with that idea. Davon is struggling with that idea because she technically wants to perhaps save Kevin, or she wants to save Kevin because she just knows that Kevin is kind of her ride or die, and Kevin will kind of at least keep her safe.
Yeah, Kevin's her best friend in the house at this point.
At this point, best friend in the house, and she needs support. She needs numbers to be able to make any moves at all.
That's it. And I mean, so that's it. And she did the classy move. She went to go talk to Christmas about it. She's like, hey, listen, I think I'm going to use it. I really would just rather have Kevin here and so on and so forth. Dani somewhat understood. She was pissed off, but she was like, hey, this is really bad for your game, though. But I thought it was a respectful conversation. You know, I thought it was cool how they had that convo. They said what she was going to do. Dani didn't like freak out, pull the Christmas sort of ordeal. And they actually had a convo about it, you know, like adults.
They did. Dani pulled out, the only real arguments that she had against Davon. But yeah, it was a cool conversation. But yeah, you see Davon really here sticking to her guns, being like, no, this is my veto. I need to do what's best for my game, and
That's it.
this is why it is. Dani doesn't like it, but accepts it, really, at the end of the day.
I wish they would have done a little bit more discussing who could have potentially been the replacement, though, because, you know, it's cool that she used the veto to save Kevin for numbers, but, you know, is it worth it when you're just putting up another number that's on your side that is going to go home? Because, you know, we just swapped Kevin for Ian at this point. You know?
Yeah, that's it. So Ian, so they're discussing about Ian in that regard. But who else are they going to put up, Steph?
No,
Who else?
I understand, but that's why Dani was so wishy-washy that, like, I feel like Davon should have kind of gotten more out of her just to be like, where's your head at? If I do take Kevin down, who are you going to put up? So that she could have really had a better idea of how to use it to her advantage.
Yeah.
Davon didn't really use it as like a currency, as a way to get more information and to understand where Dani's head is at, right? Because at this point, Davon still hasn't put together the whole committee, right? Memphis is still that floating outlier. Christmas, she knows that she's working with Tyler, but doesn't necessarily know that she's connected to the bigger group, right? And she knows Nicole is close with Dani, but doesn't know, again, that they're part of this bigger group. So this was an opportunity for Davon to get a little bit more of those strings put together, just by having that conversation about who the options are.
I don't get how you're in a house, though. Now, obviously with us, we know because we see everything and they show us everything. But I just don't get how you're in a house and you kind of don't see these things happening. You're literally in a house 24 hours together.
It's just
You're
everyone
talking to
knows
everybody.
about the major four, but no one knows the six, because remember that one episode about, I think it was 2 weeks ago, it was the first time the six of them had ever been in a room together. By fluke,
Right.
it happened. So it's like the six of them aren't in a room together ever. But who you see that hang out all the time? Cody, Nicole, Dani, and Tyler. So that's why everyone thinks that they're the power four, which they are. But no one thinks to add Christmas and Memphis into that because, you know, at this point, I'm sure people think that Christmas has an alliance with Dani and Nicole. But I don't think they're understanding that it's a full sixsome, you know?
Well, it must be crazy because, I mean, Kesar was shocked. Janelle was shocked. And we will see that the next house guest who leaves, I guess I'm ruining it. The next guest who gets nominated is shocked. So with that, Nicole is the one kind of most upset by this because ultimately they're discussing that Dani's saying that it has to be Ian to go up, and Dani knows how close Nicole is with Ian, and she's not really sure what else to do. But essentially, they have that little convo. Nicole's really upset. We get to the POV. Davon gives the power veto to Kevin. Kevin is so happy and crying again. That's great. And then ultimately, Dani goes up and says, hey, I just want you to know I'm going to put up the most ultimate pawn and that I want Tyler going home, which... okay, cool. At least you're saying what you want, even though it's fakery. But Ian, you have to go up. So my boy Ian is on the block, and Nicole is obviously really upset by that fact. And then that concludes the power veto ceremony. And then we have to wait 2 days. No, technically only 1 day. Then we have to wait 1 day for the Thursday's episode, because now it was on Tuesday today, which I guess I don't kind of mind. I kind of like, they used to have it like that, right? Sunday, Tuesday,
that's what I was
Thursday?
saying. We said this week was going to be so good because we only had 1 day break before a new episode.
That's it. I don't know why. Obviously, it's got to be a schedule thing, but they should honestly try and get that back somehow, because that's dope. Just having a 1 day break and then going to the next one. We would still have to wait those 2 days anyways for after the live fiction, but still, that's dope. So Big Brother, one job, make it back to 1 day apart, because it works and it leaves all of us happy. But I think we discussed last time it was a survivor situation. which is why they do it.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So we're on Thursday's live eviction ceremony, basically bringing you to the aftermath of what happened with Ian being put up. Kevin is grateful, of course, to be off the block after Devon helped him out there. And basically they want to see like a power shift occur in the house sort of ordeal. Nicole is obviously feeling sad to see her best friend.
Do the wine campaign.
Yeah. I mean, granted, she has a voice for it. I mean, she really does. I honestly didn't. I hate her whining voice, but it could work. It's just so annoying that I'll be like, all right, fine, I'll do it. Shut up. Like, I don't know. I just really, I really think she's too whiny.
But it's not even just her voice. It's like she can't even come up with like a cool, just like a level
strategy
and like a reason.
That is her strategy. Strategy is whining.
It was sad to watch, and Cody really put her in her place. But yeah, so we'll see.
That's
it. He did.
Before we get to that, though, so we see Nicole comforting Ian. Ian is kind of comforting Nicole more so, and Ian's like, "Don't worry about it. Like, I got this."
What is with these white women that need consoling after things happen,
right?
And that doesn't happen to them.
Christmas too, yeah.
Like, come on, it's not happening to you.
I mean, I'm more convinced about it and Nicole because I feel like Nicole is just really like all like that. Like I feel like that's kind of her bag all the time. Christmas, I think, was more just fake strategy. Nicole, I think it's just she's used to whining and doing that and getting
her own way.
Yeah. That's definitely it. Dani knows she has to. Where am I? Yeah, so Dani knows she has to maintain a relationship with Devon, despite disliking her game more. Meanwhile, Ian comes to Dani, basically just to kind of for reinsurance. Hey, so what's going on? Like, am I good? Dani is kind of saying, hey, yeah, like, don't worry. We find out that there was a sub-alliance that they made and created between Dani, Nicole, Cody, and Ian, and they formed, I forgot what it was called. It was called like the 4 Prime or something.
4 Prime.
That's it.
We briefly discussed it a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the alliance chart.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was on the live feeds, but Big Brother never showcased it until they needed to, which was right now.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
And it's because we find out about this alliance that you realize Dani really had no other options, which is why the Panic Tyler nomination kind of happened.
Yeah.
Oh, I like how they linked that up together. Oh, okay.
She was alliance with everybody else that was over to go up.
And that's it. And Tyler was already okay with being up. He kind of figured it might happen. Okay, duly noted. Tyler also goes to talk to Dani, and she tells him her speech about basically coming after him was a lie. She knows she can't go against the committee just yet, and that's why. And just thus wants Tyler to assume they are friends for as long as possible. Because as Dani says, he's going to be my friend until I don't want him to be anymore. Like, Dani, why do you think you have so much control? You thought you've had all this control for like the longest time with the whole puppeteer competition. Is like, I'm controlling everybody. Like, I don't know where she thinks she's this cocky individual all the time.
I think she doesn't realize that her and Tyler play the same game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically.
And Tyler's not nearly as cocky about it. He just is chillant about it, technically.
Yeah.
He's sort of like, I'll just go. Technically they're exactly the same. It's just one is outspoken about it, and one is just kind of like, you do me wrong, we're done. He's just kind of like, he doesn't speak to the diary about it, though. He's just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, it's just how he plays, though. I mean, this is how Tyler played before, and he's not in as much trouble as he was earlier in the season. So
I'm definitely going to compare notes. After the season's done, I'm going to watch his season. Because I definitely have to compare notes. So curious how he did it that season, which I guess to you guys is basically exactly the same. So Ian But during that conversation, though, Ian is kind of saying, look, I still got to get votes. I'm just going to try to get 4 votes kind of thing. So Dani was like, oh, damn, I didn't want him to worry, but he's still going to try to go and, campaign himself, which obviously Ian's smarter to know, like, listen, I'm still going to get my votes. He goes to Memphis. Memphis is not giving him anything. He's basically saying, look, once you got put up, it got me thinking, hey, maybe I should get you out. At least he was being honest about it.
Yeah.
Well,
and this also kind of covers his relationship with Tyler, right? Because he uses this as a way to kind of reinforce this idea that he's not really working with Tyler, because he says it in such a way that's like, with Tyler on the block, he was a bigger more competition, but now with you, like, I have basically mad respect for your game, and now this becomes a decision for me. This becomes something that I have to think about.
Yeah. So not so much a floater, guys. I thought that was a good strategy on his part, but he didn't really do much. At least he was honest about it.
He was honest.
He was honest. Fine. Still kind of a floater, but he's an honest floater. He floats like a champ. Kevin and Devon wonder why exactly Tyler hasn't been campaigning. Valid point. They're like, hey, this guy is just kind of sitting pretty, and they're worrying that there is a larger alliance backing him that they aren't a part of. Finally, like, guys, it only took you 5 weeks. Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, bad move on
Tyler. What are these guys doing in the house?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but bad move on Tyler. Had Tyler even just had 1 or 2 conversations, like a day, they would have never figured it out. Like, major red flags.
That's
but,
it.
I mean, it's week 6. There's always a big alliance by week 6. So it's like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
If you're not in big alliances halfway through the season, there's one that exists. You're just not in it.
Yeah.
That, and I think maybe the house is kind of segregated in a sense where, like, maybe Devon only talks to Kevin, David.
Well, yeah, it's the cool. It's always like that. Big Brother is high school. It's the cool kids and the outsiders, always. And the outsiders are usually the people of color, the nerdy guys, the ones that aren't physically strong or good looking.
It's like the Breakfast Club of Big Brother.
Basically. Who are the outsiders? David, Bailey, Devon, Ian, Kevin.
Yeah.
Who
are the cool kids? Tyler, Cody, and Enzo?
Nicole, Dani, what I mean?
Okay, fine. The committee. Okay.
Basically.
And we got the Mean Girls. Oh, man, it is like high school.
It is. This is why the microcosm of Big Brother is just so fascinating to watch, right? Humans just don't really change. We get fortified by this tribal mentality, and then you just watch it play out throughout our entire lives.
Yeah, and then you just see it play out, and you're like wondering why we all think this way, but it's just literally ingrained in you, and you don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm. And you don't even realize it. Like, you don't see it. That they don't see it that way. People who are always in the clique or the cool kid kind of group, they very rarely acknowledge that that's what it is.
It's their very privilege that they don't realize, But I mean, hey, Big Brother's been getting a lot of slack for exposing all of this, for years now. Like, it's not the first season that racism is a topic, and bullying is a topic, and aggressiveness comes out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we see a lot of bad things happen on Big Brother. It's just to show what even worse happens outside of Big Brother. Because if this stuff is happening in Big Brother with like a select group of 16 people in a
with
world
cameras,
exactly. in the outside world, this happens every day in groups of 10. And we're how many millions on the earth? You know what I mean? So it's like, it really is, like CiCi was saying, a microcosm of actual real life. So like what we're seeing on TV is real life. Like, this happens every day.
So another thing that happened this week, obviously, that's not going to be shown. So obviously last week we had everybody making fun of Ian because of his autism. We also, we discussed how, Nicole had lost sponsors with that. We see this week a complete different kind of Nicole. I don't think one has anything to do with the other. I don't think Big Brother necessarily said anything. But I think maybe because Nicole didn't stand up for Ian when she was in that conversation, I think she was just there out of consequence. Like she didn't say anything, but she also didn't help out the conversation.
She was collateral damage.
Collateral damage in that regard. So with that though, so we had that happen last week. Of course, we had the fight, the Bailey white privilege Christmas fight happened last week. We also had the Ian incident. This week, there was reports that Memphis had apparently dropped the N-bomb when referring to David at some point.
Are you serious?
Well,
Yeah.
Here's the thing. So he didn't entirely drop the N-bomb necessarily, but he was basically in process of saying the word, and then Cody ends up doing something with his hands saying like, hey, don't calm down. And then there is a video of him kind of Jesus, I can't talk. Memphis kind of realizing like, oh crap, I'm being filmed. Let me not say that. And realizing he said
It's like,
something.
how do they forget, man?
Like, even if, how do you forget? How do you even say that to begin with? Like, if I'm mad about someone, I'll say, I don't know, that asshole, that thing. I don't know. The N-bomb is not in my repertoire of words to say to anybody of any color. It's just not there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to say that asshole, that idiot. I'm going to say a bunch of other things, that floater or whatever. Like, but I'm not going to drop a discriminatory word like that just because I'm not good at
it.
Hey,
look, it made TMZ, but CBS is coming out and backing up, saying that they've listened to the scene over and over with enhanced audio, and they do not believe that it was said or uttered. They said that hate speech will not be tolerated, and those who violate the policy will be removed from the Big Brother house. But in this case, after close examination, it has been determined that it was not said or uttered. So that is the official statement from CBS.
I feel like because I watched the video once. When I saw it, probably I should have got it up right away. But didn't they cut the feeds?
I don't know, but apparently the fans were saying, he said, dude, David's and he heard the N, like he started to say something with an N. CBS is saying that maybe he said David's N, like A-N, and then never said the following word. But these people watch live feeds for a living, and if it sounded like that's what he was gonna say when Cody gave him a hand signal to not say anything, like, I don't know, like, what else could he have said? I'm just this is just like a case for good lawyers, because he probably on trial would get off, but it's like, we really know that, like, but you were probably gonna say it, you just got off, and technicalities won you over.
Can't convict on intention.
That's it. Yeah. So CBS has to play that legal role, right? They have to be like that, because like at the end of the day, if it wasn't, because that's it, because the reason, so Cody essentially saved Memphis from leaving, which technically Cody should just let him say it, because at the end of the day, one, everyone would see how much of an asshole he is for saying it, and two, it'd be great for Cody's game to begin with. I'm thinking of game here. Maybe I shouldn't be necessarily thinking of game, but I mean, it's just ridiculous. I'm not surprised by what Memphis said. It wasn't necessarily shocking when I saw this article. Just from everything that he's been doing in the house, gave me connotations of kind of him being a racist to begin with. And yeah, so CBS has to play the legal role in that regard, though. So if he didn't actually say the word, because it looks like all the fans were saying that he'd stopped because Cody was giving him that signal like, hey, watch out, be careful. So it stopped. And if there's no word actually being said, you got to have those technicalities on CBS's side. And that's why I was just kind of just alluding, like, Cody should have just let him say it. Like, get him out of here. I don't know, man.
How did Cody even catch on that quickly? That's another question.
Which means which means it's a pattern of behavior. So if Cody knew to interrupt him, it means that things have, if not crossed the line before, have approached it. It was like enough for Cody to know that he
that he
needs
was
to
getting out
censor
of
him.
hand. Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that's
valid.
and that's concerning.
And that's so, then I'm curious then, how did none of our live feeders catch on to that? When did they have that conversation where Memphis might have dropped a word and Cody not have realized, you know? Or
I think
maybe
it's more
he
just an escalation. Like if you have a pattern of behavior and you know someone
Yeah,
has
I
a
think they just know he
tendency.
was capable of doing it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I don't know. I'm not surprised. It's just really sad, and especially when you're calling these guys all stars, it just makes Big Brother look even worse, technically, because all of these R stars are just all racists. Because not all, but you know what I mean. It was just a play on words, but a lot of them have either this like white privilege view on the world, or they have these racial tendencies. And it's just very disheartening to see. And I don't know. We discussed, I think, one of our first episodes that they gotta have a better way of, being able to pick these players when they do get onto the show, because there has to be something they can do. I don't know, man. It's just, and I put the video out on Twitter of the last one. And someone was mentioning, like, there's people that are going to be bitching anyways on either side. CBS is not doing enough, or CBS should do more. And I was mentioning that, look, CBS, is at least now speaking up more for it more than ever. And then someone was like, well, yeah, but CBS is not doing enough. And I'm like, but listen, CBS is at least doing a lot with Julie Chen from setting, these positive messages. To actually showcasing it more. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they should have done it before. Sure, they should have. They should have. You know what I mean? Is this something off of what's been going on with the world, with Black Lives Matter being more out there now because of what happened with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor? CBS just kind of shining off that and showcasing it more, perhaps. But at the same time, maybe they're also noticing, hey, we should have done more, and at least they're learning from it. Is it a little too late? It's never too late. You should start. Starting is a good point, and I think they have to keep going that route because it's just not needed. You know what I mean? You're promoting this hatred as well. And sure, we've seen it in prior seasons, and it hasn't necessarily been. They haven't necessarily done a lot. I think one of them got kicked out.
Yeah, so we've had history, like there's been history on CBS where people have been removed from the house for misogyny and racism and other negative behaviors or hateful behaviors. But we also have to acknowledge that at the end of the day, CBS is a business and they pander to their audience. So if there isn't any audience pressure to make this a big deal, they have no motivation to do it. So it really is on, us as a community, a society, people who engage in watching things, right? So what do you watch? What do you entertain? And what do you accept and not accept? So I think a lot of pressure is coming on CBS because of the public outrage and because this is such an active conversation as compared to the more passive conversations in seasons past. Because it's been mentioned, it's been talked about. We also see different forms of representation, right? So there was a scene this week with Kevin, right, talking about representation from the LGBTQ community and wanting to be, a good representative and worried about the judgment that he's going to get because of how he presents and how he interacts with his world. And so there's been other ways that CBS has done inclusivity, but being more overt about the intention and the impact and the reason for representation, I think is just because of the public dialogue. This is why they are now more overt about it. And you can't really fault an entertainment company for that. They've been like this since the start of time, right? They create content for their audiences.
That's well said. That's spot on. It's at the end of the day, that's right. And I had that on my notes for the Kevin thing. Totally forgot to bring it up. I wanted to hear more about that though, because I found that very interesting. How he was saying that for him, the gay community he says they kind of find him like too feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what he said, and I was like, oh wow. I'm like, okay, why would they judge you on you being too feminine in that regard? So
I mean, I know so many more people who are so much more flamboyant that don't get any. But I mean, I feel like as a gay person, you'll get slack from all angles, anyways. So
Yeah.
right.
you
I
know.
think it's general. It's like everybody else. It's just within that
Yeah.
community, there's people who are gonna love who you are, hate you who
Yeah.
you are, say you're this, say you're that. Like at the end of the day, I think it's just like anything else in any kind of community. But I just thought that was interesting how he was saying that, and sure, the pressure that he is there to, I guess, kind of represent his community. But I mean, Kevin, if you want to represent your community better, like start playing the game and start whining. Probably a good thing to do. Look at what Gary did in Big Brother Canada. You know what I mean? He was flamboyant and whatever, but he legit played the game and he went to the end, right? So
Yeah.
didn't win because of freaking
Because Topaz is an
Topaz.
idiot.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to talk about this because I have way too many emotions for how stupid she is.
And he
yeah.
forgave her.
Lance will
worst
tell
part.
you how I was throwing things at my TV.
Oh my god. When that interview came out afterwards, like we are so digressing, but when that interview came out afterwards, she's like, I didn't understand the rules. I was like, are you kidding me?
Like everyone knows. Like, are you not a Big Brother fan? Like, what the heck?
Like they replayed the video where like Julie Chen outlined them twice.
Arissa,
Or
Arissa,
Arissa, sorry.
yeah.
Arissa, yeah.
how dare you?
I'm so sorry.
You got to give our Canadian girl love, damn it.
Bad slip. Anyway.
All good. Yeah, so all that to say, I am happy at least we're finding this information out and CBS isn't covering it. You're completely right though in that regard. Well said by CiCi. I will say no more because what you said was perfect. On to the episode.
Back on track.
Back on track. So, so Nicole tries to also appeal to Cody. We were explaining this a little earlier, how bad it would look for her to vote out her best friend. And Cody just tells her straight that, Nicole makes a compelling argument. Like, hey, listen, if it was Enzo up there, you would fight tooth and nail to kind of keep him. And Cody agrees in the diary room, like, of course I would. But he tells her, like, listen, like, why would I vote out Tyler? Tyler isn't coming after me. Tyler is, in my group. It doesn't make sense for me at all. Like, no, Ian's gone. He's like, I'm sorry, it's your best friend. I get it, but there's no reason for me to keep Ian over anybody in my team. I know everyone here's got me protected. Like, doesn't make sense. No.
Yeah. What the nail in the coffin for me was with what Cody said was that Ian is not the type of player I'd put my neck on the line for.
Yeah.
And that really,
snap.
that really just kind of was like, yeah, he's like, there's nothing Nicole could say because Cody has done the analysis, looked at his game, and Ian doesn't provide a value to Cody's game. And he knows it straight up. So, yeah, there's really nothing Nicole could have said, I think, in that case. And, Nicole probably would have had the same feeling to Enzo. Enzo doesn't serve my game. Why would I risk my game to save Enzo? So they're really playing the same game. They have a different person on their side. So it just is. You can't say, play the game and do your own thing and don't be too associated with each other and then be mad when something like this happens.
That's it. I mean, it sucks, but Cody said it like it was. And I like how he told it to her like that too. Like, cause it's true. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, they're playing the exact same game. So, Ian tells Dani now that he doesn't feel safe and that he absolutely would hold it against her, which I completely love. He's like, yeah, I'm going to hold it completely against you. You're definitely not going to get my vote. if I go to jury, unless it's like David or who's the other one?
Kevin.
David or Kevin. Which I'm like, that's valid. I'm like, I'm sorry to say, but at this point, yeah, David and Kevin haven't done anything. So that's a completely valid statement. And then Dani was like, yeah, I'm sorry. Sure. Okay. You're right. My fault. I'll accept it. Cool. And then she just went out of the room. And I guess, there's nothing she could do. I don't think. At first, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe she's going to change her mind and try to get people to take out Tyler. I think, okay, we'll actually just go along with that because, okay, I'll discuss that after. So, yeah, and Nicole obviously isn't sure what's going on. So she realizes she needs 4, and she's kind of conflicted. Maybe I'll be that 4th and force Dani to break the tie because she's going to have Kevin, David, and Devon on her side. And while everyone else is going to obviously vote Ian to go out, she's like, maybe I'll be that 4th for the tie. But I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, Nicole, why do you think that's such a great idea to begin with?
Are you kidding me? I thought it would have been brilliant.
I don't think so.
No, if she had, because Nicole and Dani can't go to the end together. Like, let's be real. They can't. They've played too similar of a game. They can't really refute the other one very well. It's a toss-up. It would be boring. I think it would have been brilliant for Nicole to throw her vote to Ian and make Dani break the tie.
See,
Absolutely
I was
brilliant.
going to wait until we got to the votes to bring this up because I didn't want to be like, hey, we're skipping ahead. But can we just get to the vote so that I can say what I have to say?
Okay, so let's do it. At the live vote eviction, Julie gives nominees a chance to say whatever they want to say to try and convince people to stay. Basically, Ian appeals to the players to consider how he can help their games moving forward. And Tyler similarly just asked the house guests to consider their games and don't be a clown. Keep Tyler around. By the way, so his wife or girlfriend was from Big Brother? I didn't realize that because I didn't watch their season.
Yes, she won. He was runner-up next to Angela. Yeah.
Yeah, they were final 2.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I was like, oh, that's cute. Another Big Brother couple. So many couples. Perfect. But as we mentioned, or CiCi mentioned, ultimately Nicole decides to play nice with her alliance and vote for Ian's eviction, making the vote 5-3 to evict Ian from the Big Brother house. And boy, was Ian a class act through and through. He hugged everybody. When he talked with Julie Chen, he said, listen, no hard feelings. Everybody played a good game. Julie was so excited to talk to Ian because this has never happened. This is the first time Ian was on the block ever. This is the first time Ian got evicted. This will be the first time Ian is going to the jury house, and all kinds of firsts for Ian. And you could just see it on Julie's face and expressions that she was just so antsy and thrilled and sad and excited to kind of see what Ian thought of the rest of the game. And he did it really well.
Yeah, so I'm just going to jump into this Nicole vote now.
Do it.
So now we know Nicole ultimately sticks with her alliance, votes out Ian in tears, says it's the hardest thing she'll ever have to do. But like CiCi was saying, Nicole could have done this so much better because I understand that she didn't want to force Dani to break the tie. But if we knew either scenario was Ian going home, she could have made herself look the best in the scenario since the outcome was the same. The outcome was going to be the same either way. It was either going to be a 4-4 vote and then Dani votes him to go home, or it was going to be a 5-3 vote.
Yeah. And you can manage that conversation with Dani. Be like, he's my best friend. I can't do him dirty like this. I'm going to vote to keep him. So you'll have to break the tie. Like, she could have done it with Dani.
I feel like Dani played her though, because her and Tyler had agreed to keep their their makeup a secret, and to make everybody else think that they're still feuding with each other. But it's like at this point, there's not many people left but your alliance. So the only people you would have been exposing yourself to by Dani having to choose over Ian or Tyler, and showing the house that she is sticking with Tyler and they are not enemies anymore. She's only exposing herself to Davon and Kevin. What are they going to do? Nothing.
Yeah.
It was a good risk to take. Yes, you're blowing up your game, I guess, in her sense, because they wanted everybody to believe that Tyler was still her target, and all that nonsense. But it's like, I feel like Dani might have manipulated Nicole and her guilt a little bit, and Dani came out of the winner in this scenario, and Nicole came out the loser.
Definitely. The only thing I can think of is the fallout for Nicole with the committee, because this could have caused issues with the committee, with the guys. The only thing is, but I think if she had talked to Christmas and Dani ahead of time, she probably would have been okay long term.
But she already talked, right? She talked to Memphis. She was going around whining to everybody.
But that's different. She was trying to save him. Knowing he was going home, she could have at least said, listen, I know we're sending him home. Can you just let me give him my vote, because he's my best friend.
Saying. And I don't think anyone would have cared. They would have been like, all right, no problem. Either way, he's going home. You know what I mean? I mean, it's still dangerous, of course, because Dani can always change her mind. But she was already campaigning, hey, well, what if we were to keep Ian, whatever? Like, at this point...
And Memphis's threat?
Oh.
Right? So... He's like, yeah,
if you... It was a joke, though. It seemed like Cody wasn't sure if it was a joke.
Cody wasn't sure.
But it seemed like it was kind of a threat, because they were all just kind of talking and thing, and he kind of smiled when he said it. I mean, it was a threat joke.
But that just goes to show, like, what we know about Memphis is that he throws out these jabs as a joke because he thinks he's in charge, and he thinks he's steering the ship, and he thinks he's running shit. And it's like, he wanted to let people know, well, yeah, if you go against us, you could be the one sitting up there next time. Like, come on, like, floater, please. You don't have that much power.
But he does, because we saw Cody even say, if I'm going to get rid of Tyler, how am I going to go after Memphis?
This week, like, it might have seemed that way, but I'm just saying he is low on the totem pole in this alliance.
I don't know.
When they start turning on each other, he's the first to go.
Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, I want that to happen because I don't like him as a person. And I'm saying that like legit. I don't like how he is. But I don't know. I think he's running things more than BBS is leading on. As shitty as you think his game is, as poopy as you think his game is, I think it's a lot better than we think, and a lot more people give him a lot more respect within his committee for it.
So yeah, I think you're right. Like there's a lot of respect for some reason given to Memphis, and I think part of that is just because he did kind of bring them all together. And I think that there is kind of this unfounded fear, right? So with Cody being concerned or like not sure what Memphis, if he was being serious or not, that also showed that Cody is worried about what Memphis might do.
That's it. You know what I mean? So
that's the thing. They've been calling him a wild card since his HOH reign, which is why I'm saying at the end of the day, they fear him to the point whereas if they have to start turning on each other, I think the core four will stick together, and Memphis and Christmas will be the first two out of that six that will be targeted.
Yeah, for sure. He's not going to be the first one.
Yeah.
I don't know, but we don't really know, because this is a lot of editing. So we think that, we know that Cody and Enzo ride or die final two. But if something happens to Enzo, we don't know if Cody and Memphis don't have necessarily a final deal either. We don't really we know as much as Big Brother is showing us, but we technically don't know what else is kind of going on. Cody and Memphis did
make like a kind of a final two in week one, but
right.
I don't think Cody honors it. I think it was like just a thing he did to get into Memphis's,
I think
stuff,
he
so.
might though. Why is he so scared of Cody? Even not Cody. Why is he so scared of Memphis? Even if Memphis is somewhat of a wild card, there's got to be something there. Like there has to be more to that. Maybe for all we know, maybe Cody's more aligned with Memphis than Enzo. Enzo's his.
I don't think so.
I hope
I don't
not.
think so.
I
I
hope
think
not.
Yeah, and I called this a few weeks ago, like a few weeks in, right? Like I really think that when Cody made the alliance with Memphis, it was because they saw things in each other, parallel people, parallel stories,
Two
thinking that they could,
runner-ups.
thinking who worked in a duo, a really strong duo, right?
Yeah.
But then when Enzo came in the picture, and I think that just was a more authentic kind of base relationship. So I really think he's more loyal to Enzo than Memphis.
I think so too. I'm just saying things could possibly change too. Like you never
Good
know.
backup plan.
Good backup plan. But he's definitely still scared of him. So I don't know. Maybe him and Tyler aren't as close as we thought. Because I honestly thought final three, if Cody, Enzo, or Tyler end up going to their final three, I thought it's going to be these three for sure that are going to be with them. I thought final three, the core final three kind of ordeal. I thought those guys, they're like the bromance there all together. So we'll see in that regard. So with that, Ian's out. Now, honestly, I feel that there's no other great skilled-minded Big Brother gamers playing the game anymore. I'm worried that it's going to be really boring aside from, I guess, all of the crazy other racial stuff we might see, which is entertaining for the wrong reasons. In terms of actual game, I'm not sure how much we will actually see. We are going to get the excitement of the committee breaking up, which I guess is nice. And that's what's going to make it entertaining. But yeah, all in all, kudos to Davon winning the POV. That was exciting. That was cool. Davon taking Kevin off. Memphis being a complete idiot. His morning with Memphis is now canceled. There was no viewers, and he made that racist comment, and there's no more mornings with Memphis. And yeah, head of household time. Do you guys want to say anything else there, or do we get to the head of household?
You can go ahead.
All righty. Julie informs us Dani has opted not to use her replay power. Obviously, this is not mentioned to the house guests because they don't know she has the replay power. But opted not to use it, allowing her the chance to compete in the HOH for the next 2 weeks. She can use it in the next 2 weeks, technically, to get that done. In the competition, this competition is called Hydrant Hustle, where we see the house guests have to complete a puzzle in the shape of a hydrant, and the first to finish will be crowned the new HOH. And it's like a 3D puzzle, right? So it looks hard. Definitely not my bag. I would just throw my hands in the air and quit. Julie teases that the following week, though, will bring a Big Brother legend moving in as a neighbor. So we'll have another wall yeller, apparently, but he'll be a legend in the Big Brother game to shake things up.
Yeah, they had to do something. There's no doubt about it.
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
they needed to bring some entertainment in, or some big thing for sweeps. It's September. This is the stuff where everyone wants to be on TV watching what's going on. So they needed to bring some wow factor to Big Brother.
Then why not bring like an actor or something? Why bring a legendary Big Brother? Because people who watch Big Brother are gonna watch anyways, right? Why not bring like, I don't know, Will Smith is coming to stir up the house.
I guess it's just for more excitement. I think it's because the BB fandom is so disappointed right now with the direction of this season that they're trying to win back the fans.
Yeah, okay, that's also true.
Definitely. Do you guys think Davon has a chance of finding a crack in this committee fallout that's going to happen?
Not if she gets put up next week.
Agreed. Thought I'd ask. Looking for a ray of hope here.
Yeah. No. I mean, at this point, it's like 2 against 7, right?
Yeah.
So their odds of winning are probably slim to none.
I like how you don't even make David a thing.
Oh yeah, right. Forgot about him there
Yeah,
again.
3 against 7. No, but
Three
it's valid.
against 7. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think at this point the odds are low, and if they don't win, they're automatically being put up.
Yeah.
It'll be Davon or Kevin, or Davon and David.
I mean, it is a puzzle game. I don't know how good these guys are with puzzles. I hope, let's, Davon got that POV. Hopefully she could win something here. Maybe David wins another, well, not HOH, but wins another competition. We'll see. We'll see. One of them has to definitely win, though.
Agreed.
Yeah. Committee took it over, guys. This is the first I think we've seen an alliance.
Yeah,
really
power
take it to
through
the end.
this far. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All thanks to who?
Memphis.
Memphis.
Floater he not, guys. Racist he is. Floater he not. No? Okay. Still not agreeing with me? Fine. I think that's going to be the name of the thing. Racist he is. Floater he not. Maybe. We'll see. I agree with you, though. One of them has to win, or else it's bye-bye birdie for one of them, unless Dani randomly panics and gets Nicole or something to put up Tyler.
I still think Dani and Nicole missed a really good opportunity here. I really think they did.
Because Nicole had Ian. So for Dani's game, Dani's would have been good if Ian won anything. Nicole has Ian, Dani, or they should have just made another little alliance there. Dani, for yourself.
Exactly. You could have broken the tie, sent Tyler home. Then you have Ian, Nicole, Dani, Davon, and Kevin.
That's what I'm saying. This is
but she didn't want to get in. She didn't want Cody and Enzo and Tyler on her bad side, I guess. And the boys were very much sticking to their guns of keep our alliance strong. It's too early. And they ultimately won. That's all it was.
The only hotheads there, Enzo wouldn't have cared. He would have been mad, but it would have been like, good move. You know what I mean? Enzo's like that. He's very chalant. So you wouldn't necessarily get Enzo angry. It's more really just Memphis and Cody who'd be mad. Tyler's out. So it would have been Memphis, Cody, and whatever. Dani's just always seems like she's.
And I don't think it was too early to blow up the alliance. Like we said, there's only 3 people left on the other side of the house. So, it would have been the perfect time to blow up the alliance.
Yeah, this would have been one of Dani's go-to moves if she made it to the final 2 to say, hey, I did this. I made it with this group this far. I was the one that fractured the group. And then ultimately I made another group to get me to the end. This would have been her ultimate game move that would have helped her to explain herself why she should win $500,000 to the rest of the jury.
Yeah. It was a resume. It was a resume maker.
Yeah.
Well, all we could do was wait and see.
Yeah, wait and see. And that's it. It was a good time, though. It was exciting when Davon won that and she did that. I thought Davon was just going to play it safe and just keep it the same.
I'm so glad she didn't.
So glad she didn't. And kudos to her for having all that patience too with the microbrews. Because I don't know. I would have broken something and just flipped.
I would have killed that competition.
Yeah. You're a cake boss. You're good.
Yeah, but I also used to do lashes and microblading and eyebrows and stuff. So I'm good with tweezers and small things. So it's like I'm good with my hands essentially. So
hey, nice. All right, fair enough. Cake boss would have won it. She would have had the tiniest power of veto. Nice. Yeah, no patience, and I shake all the time for some reason. For when I'm holding something, even if it's not heavy, I'm still like like my hands are like, oh, what is this balancing? Never mind. So that's it. We don't know who HOH is because it's a whole puzzle thing. So I don't watch the live feeds. I got rid of my membership because I'm not paying $8 a month because I'm cheap. And so we'll find out Sunday, and we'll take you to what happens next week as it is already.
I did give you a free link for the live feeds, though.
Oh, it's true. That's still working?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
I've been using this guy for like 10 years.
Oh, snap. Nice. So $8 saved Sweet. I'm a happy camper again, and hopefully this Big Brother legend spices up the game. But I'm curious to see what other stuff they're gonna throw our way. And I'm curious to see what happens with Memphis and that. Oh, I guess nothing, because they said he didn't say it, so nothing will happen with Memphis. But hopefully that's the end of the racism and bigotry. I doubt it, but we shall see. Guys, thank you once again. You have been troopers. On that note, we will take it off to Stephanie. Let them know where they can find you, if they're in Montreal, where they can get cakes from you, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, catch me on Instagram at Stephanie's Bakery 514. Try to keep posting as much as possible and keeping the social medias up to date with the most recent creations.
Boom, boom. That's it. Also, we do have, technically, I did a review of an album for No Regard, technically, which is, can we say it's your boyfriend? Do I cut that out?
No, you can say that.
Okay, I don't know. Who's her boyfriend? And we did a review actually on that as well. We thought it was a good album, so we decided to review it. So that you can also check our review, as well as their album there as well, Hybrid R&B. Thank you, Steph. CiCi, what beautiful message or what will you be promoting today? The fans want to know.
The fans want to know. No, I'm going to go back to Rice for Ramadan. So Guinea is in real dire need of support. We have some political corruption happening. We have artists being actively prevented from working. So it's really getting quite scary for a lot of artists. So if you have anything to give, please give. Rice for Ramadan. Sarah Parker, the organizer, is on the ground in Guinea, and she put a wonderful post up yesterday kind of explaining everything that's going on. So if you're interested in what's happening there, please take a look.
Mm-hmm. Support good cause.
Support good cause, and I will actually post her a link to her post there if anyone's curious in what's going on there. No, of course, not a problem. Politics, huh? It's never good, and it's even worse in other places in the world. So, on that note, it's I have socials as well. Real Talk Radio is the brand. You can follow me on Twitter at Real Talk Radio 8. On Instagram, it's Real Talk Radio Online. Anchor.fm/RTR for all the podcast stuff. We're on all streams everywhere, so definitely check that out. Website still there, still nothing happening. I should probably stop promoting it, but I paid for it, and I'm going to promote what I paid for. www.realtalkradio.online, because .ca and .com is just so bland. I am a leader, not a follower. Yes, that's my reasoning. And that is pretty much it. So thank you guys for listening. Until next week, we are more than halfway through now. And that is all. Thank you guys once again. Ciao for now.
Bye.